Okay, so Russia continues major attacks on Ukraine, this time targeting Ukraine's capital, getting close to civilians. Airstrikes overnight killed 2, set off fires all around Kyiv. You can see the flashes in the night sky. This comes, of course, on the heels of yesterday's record-breaking attack in western Ukraine. More than 700 Russian drones there pummeling that country. Enter Secretary of State Marco Rubio today, who tried to calm the situation in a meeting with his Russian counterpart. The two meeting here in Malaysia. Speaking to reporters after, Rubio echoed President Donald Trump's frustration with Russian President Vladimir Putin. Listen.
We need to see a roadmap moving forward about how this conflict can conclude. And then we shared some ideas about what that might look like. And obviously, I'll take that back to the president here as early as this evening. And hopefully there's something that we can build on.
Something to build on. So let's build on that. CBS News White House correspondent Natalie Brand, good to have you with us, Natalie. So Secretary Rubio also addressed the recent phase on U.S. shipments of weapons to Ukraine. That is the big question because it's been the position of Donald Trump to pull back on that. Why the change?
Right, and CBS News has new reporting. We've learned that, according to sources speaking to Margaret Brennan, the State Department was cut out of that decision to pause some weapons shipments. The Secretary of State, who, as you know, also serves as the National Security Advisor, was also during his comments to reporters today asked about that reporting, and here's what he had to say.
That decision, unfortunately, was mischaracterized. It was a pause pending review on a handful of specific type munitions. That, frankly, is something that is logical that you would do, especially after an extended engagement that we saw both in defense of Israel and in defense of our own bases. And so it was a very limited review of certain types of munitions to ensure that we had sufficient stockpiles.
The White House, in a statement to CBS News, continues to say that this was part of a broad review. We know that when we were reporting on this last week, some officials were citing concerns about just assessing what is in the U.S. stockpiles. But a spokesperson goes on to say, the administration has now resumed shipments. That was a decision by the president. Also interesting to note, Reed, that earlier this week, the president himself indicated he didn't know who made that decision. A U.S. official now tells CBS News that some munitions like artillery and also precision-guided rockets have resumed flowing into Ukraine at this critical time.
Well, we've also got to ask you, as we think about what the president has been thinking about, some audio that we've obtained from clear back in 2024. We hear President Trump claim that he issued a warning to Russia's leader before the invasion. I want to talk to you about this, but let's listen to it.
To Putin, I said, if you go in to Ukraine, we're going to bomb the out of Moscow. I'm telling you, I have no choice. So he goes like, I don't believe you. I said, he said, no way, and I said, way. And then he goes like, I don't believe you, but the truth is he believed me 10%.
The truth is he believed me 10%. What does this conversation reveal, and how does it change the narrative today?
Well, to give you some context about that audio clip, it was obtained by 3 journalists who just published a book about the 2024 election. CBS News asked the White House about that clip, and we did not get a direct response, but a statement really reiterating what the president has said time and time again, that Russia never dared invade Ukraine when he was in office. Now, the Kremlin also weighing in. They wouldn't confirm or deny this reporting, this clip, but they kind of tried to cast doubt on its authenticity, telling Reuters whether it's fake or not, we do not know, Reed.
All right, so let's turn to tariffs. President Trump is threatening Brazil with that 50% tariff. That is a whopper of a tariff, especially since we don't have a trade deficit with Brazil. It's a country that we have a surplus with. So what is the reasoning behind this particular threat with Brazil?
Yeah, this is the most significant rate that we've seen in the more than 20 letters that have gone out so far to trading partners. In looking at the rates, a lot of the countries or the letters match the rates that had been announced by the administration back in April. But Brazil really stands out. You noted facing a 50% tariff. And you also noted this is unusual because, those rates were supposed to be based on trade deficits, but instead Brazil has a trade surplus. Well, in his letter, President Trump gives us some clues here indicating that there could be a political reason playing into the move as well as trade practices. He cites the trial of former Brazilian president and Trump ally, especially during his first administration, Jair Bolsonaro, who is facing charges of allegedly attempting a coup to remain in office. President Trump, in his letter, called that a witch hunt, echoing language that he's used in talking about his own legal proceedings that had previously been against him. Brazil's new president, meanwhile, in response to this letter, said that the country will respond to any tariff increases with countermeasures of its own. Reid.
Natalie Brand, live for us at the White House. Good to see you as always, my friend. Thank you so much for all of those updates.